In the White House, at the end of every month, you are sent a bill for all of the food and meals you have eaten and common items such as toilet paper and toothpaste. The White House has become a popular attraction for Washington, D.C., and it was all started in 1792. Throughout the years of the president living in the White House, many renovations were needed to repair damages from the fires. The White House was built to house the president and his family, and for the design of the White House, there was an advertisement in the newspaper from Thomas Jefferson stating that there was a contest deciding what kind of house to build for the president. A group of people picked the best design made by James Hoban, a young Irish-American architect. In Ireland, the Duke of Leinster's home was very well known for its design. It became a model for other important buildings. James Hoban studied in Dublin and probably loved the design for the house and got the idea of remaking that for the competition that he later won. George Washington designed the whole city of Washington, D.C. with the help of a couple of people before it was built. Beginning with the maps, Benjamin Banneker and Andrew Ellicott designed them. The placement of the roads was decided by Pierre Charles L'Enfant. I don't think I said that right. Lastly, George Washington wanted to put the two biggest buildings back then at each end of the city. So the Capitol building was on one side on a hill, and on the other side of the city, the White House was put there. The first day of building the White House was on October 13, 1792, and lasted for 8 years after that until it was ready for the president. D.C. workers initially thought of bringing in workers from Europe to start building the White House. They were unable to bring them, so they had to bring African Americans to work and give all their effort to build the White House, and a couple other government buildings in Washington, D.C. Scottish masons placed a heavy stone that was cut by slaves that built the walls of the White House. After the fire in 1814, James Hoban rebuilt the house for President James Monroe. This didn't finish until 1817, when Monroe could actually move in. The president was the most well-known person in D.C. and became a target for some people. Over the years, renovations were needed to repair the damages from fires. Charlie Williamson, an officer manager, could smell smoke coming from the main floor. As he ran for help, he found Secret Service agent Russell Wood and policeman Richard Trice. They tracked the smoke to the attic and climbed up the stairs. They were hit by a cloud of heat while opening the wood door. Russell Wood ran down the stairs looking for a fire extinguisher, and patrolman Trice went to turn on the fire alarm. Trice went to pull the lighting switch, but nothing happened. The wires were all burnt away because the fire was inside all the wires. Ike Hoover was overseeing the Christmas party from the main wing of the White House. Rice's call came through, and the chief usher went to tell the president. He walked into the party quietly and whispered to the president's secretary, Larry Ritchie, and then went to the president. The first few people in the president's office were the Hoover and Newton boys and Larry Ritchie. The office was filled with smoke, but the three men took all the files out of the office. Richard Trice was finally able to pull the alarm after breaking the glass. He opened the door and pulled the handle. The fire was officially declared out on Christmas morning. Engine 1 stayed at the White House all day just in case the fire started again. What caused the fire was a gas heater overheated in the secretary's office. The White House was okay, but 15 firemen were injured during the fire. During the War of 1812, the British troops went to Washington, D.C. so they can burn down the White House in revenge for America attacking Canada. President James Madison had already left the White House for a meeting. He told his wife to pack up and be prepared to leave the White House at any moment. As the British arrived at the White House, the president and his wife had already left, so the British sat down and ate before setting it on fire. President Madison and his wife returned to Washington 3 days after, but could never live in the White House again. After they repaired the damages, they wanted to remodel the White House. Today, the White House is a popular tourist attraction because it's the home of the most famous man in D.C. The White House is a must-see for any visitor to the nation's capital. Tours take visitors through the East Wing, which includes much of the home's entertaining space. You'll see among other rooms the state dining room, the red, blue, and green room, and the China room, which houses historic pieces of china. The tour, which typically takes about 30 minutes, is self-guided with guides in each room. The White House sits on a hill, so the ground floor connects to the first floor of the West Wing and the first floor of the East Wing. The ground floor has 6 bathrooms, 1 main hallway, and 10 rooms. It used to be known as the basement. Servants with families usually stayed here. The first floor of the White House residence is often called the State Floor because this is where formal receptions of the state are held. This floor is at the same level as the second floor of the West Wing and the East Wing because the residence sits on higher ground. This floor has 8 rooms, 1 main corridor, and 1 entrance hall. The second floor of the White House residence is the first family residence, where their bedrooms and private sitting rooms are located, as well as some guest bedrooms such as the Lincoln bedroom. This floor has 16 rooms, 1 main corridor, 6 bathrooms, and 1 lavatory. The first family has overnight guests at the residence, but visiting chiefs of state usually stay across the street at Blair House. Last page. The family likes to relax on the 3rd floor of the White House. It has a bowling lane, a sunroom, and a music room. The old attic was used for storage and bedrooms for servants and was only accessible by ladder. After the 1902 renovation, they expanded it, adding room for laundry rooms, closets, guest rooms, and put in a staircase. The First Lady, Caroline Harrison, started designing ideas for the new White House. An architect began drawing her ideas for the overcrowded living area, dining room, reception, and household maintenance areas. After about 10 years, presidents were intrigued by the White House expansion. The campaign grew fast with a contest to approve the civic improvement projects. The model showed ideas of a 2-story structure with new offices, public and entertaining spaces, and press rooms. After President McKinley's assassination, the project stalled. The White House has housed over 40 families, and over 200 years later, it is still the home of our nation's president.